When you have an impulse to act, count backward from 5 to 1 and then physically move before your brain can talk you out of it. The 5-second rule, written by Mel Robbins. In Chapter 1 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins introduces us to a moment that completely changed her life and would go on to change millions of others. She begins by sharing her personal story, a time when her life was falling apart. Her marriage was struggling, her career was failing, and every morning she could barely pull herself out of bed. She describes how she would hit the snooze button again and again, drowning in worry, guilt, and self-doubt. She knew what she needed to do to fix her life. Get up earlier, take action, stop drinking, so much start looking for work. But she just couldn't make herself do it. Then one night, while watching TV, she saw a commercial of a rocket launching 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Something clicked. The next morning, when her alarm went off, she decided to try something different. Instead of hitting snooze, she counted backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stood up. That single moment was the birth of the 5-second rule. Mel didn't realize it at the time, but she had discovered a simple, science-backed tool to change her behavior and take control of her life. Over the next few days, she started using it for everything: to stop procrastinating, to go to the gym, to make tough calls, to speak up in meetings. Every time she hesitated, she counted backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and moved before her brain could stop her. The results were immediate and profound. She realized that we all have moments every single day when we know what we need to do, but we don't do it. We hesitate. We overthink. We let fear, doubt, and excuses take over. Our brains are wired to protect us from discomfort, so the moment we feel uncertainty or effort, our mind talks us out of taking action. The 5-second rule interrupts that pattern. When you count down and move, you bypass your excuses and activate the part of your brain that helps you focus and take control. Mel explains that this rule isn't about motivation because motivation is unreliable. Motivation doesn't show up when you need it most, but action does. The 5-second rule gives you a way to act even when you don't feel like it. It's not a gimmick, it's a psychological trigger that puts you in control of your decisions instead of letting your habits or fears run your life. She says change doesn't require magic. It just takes one moment of courage, one small decision, one 5-second window where you choose to move instead of hesitate. Every time you count down and take action, you build self-trust. You prove to yourself that you can rely on you. And that is where confidence begins. Mel's message is powerful because it's simple. You are one decision away from a completely different life. Whether it's waking up earlier, applying for that job, starting that business, or having that difficult conversation, it all starts with one moment of courage, one countdown, one action. By the end of this chapter, you realize that the 5-second rule isn't just a trick, it's a way to reclaim your power. You don't need to wait for the right time, the right feeling, or the perfect plan. You just need 5 seconds of bravery to change the course of your day, and eventually your life. So the next time you feel stuck, scared, or unmotivated, remember Mel's story. Take a deep breath, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. Because the truth is, your dreams are just 5 seconds of courage away. In Chapter 2, Mel Robbins takes us deeper into the real-life story behind the 5-second rule, how she discovered it at one of the lowest points in her life. She's brutally honest about how bad things had gotten. Mel describes waking up every day feeling defeated before she even got out of bed. Her marriage was on the rocks, her law career had fallen apart, and her family was drowning in debt. Each morning, she promised herself that tomorrow she'd change, but every night she drank too much, and every morning she hit snooze again. It was a painful cycle of regret, procrastination, and guilt. Then one night, as she sat watching TV, she saw a rocket launch on a commercial. The countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, caught her attention. It was simple, but something about it stuck with her. She thought, what if I used that countdown to launch myself out of bed tomorrow morning? It sounded ridiculous, but she was desperate enough to try. The next morning, when her alarm went off, she could feel the familiar pull to stay in bed. But instead of giving in, she whispered, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and before she could talk herself out of it, she stood up. That single tiny moment standing up, when she didn't feel like it, became the spark that changed everything. At first, Mel didn't realize what she'd stumbled upon. She just knew that the countdown worked. It stopped her brain from making excuses and pushed her into action before fear and doubt could take over. She started using it throughout the day to stop procrastinating, to go to the gym, to make tough phone calls, to start projects she'd been avoiding. Every time she counted backward and moved, she felt a surge of control, and that feeling started rebuilding her confidence. She explains that this was more than just willpower. Scientifically, the countdown interrupts the habit loop in your brain. Normally, when you hesitate, your mind floods with reasons to avoid discomfort. I'm too tired. I'll do it later. It's not the right time. But when you count backward, you shift focus away from those thoughts and activate your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and action. The 5-second window gives you a chance to override your autopilot response and choose progress over paralysis. Mel shares how this simple rule began transforming her entire life. She started waking up on time, taking care of herself, rebuilding her career, and reconnecting with her family. It didn't happen overnight, but day by day, 5 seconds at a time, she began to rebuild the person she wanted to be. The 5-second rule became her secret weapon, a tool she could use anywhere, anytime, to silence fear and take control. She realized that success, happiness, and confidence don't come from huge moments, they come from small acts of courage repeated every day. Most people wait until they feel ready to change, but the truth is you'll never feel ready. You have to move before you feel like it. The 5-second rule gives you that push. It's not about motivation, it's about momentum. Mel puts it simply, if you don't act within 5 seconds, your brain will kill your idea. Whether it's applying for a job, starting a conversation, going for a run, or ending a toxic relationship, you only have a small window to act before fear takes over. The rule helps you seize that moment of instinct and turn it into movement. By the end of chapter 2, Mel's story becomes our story. She proves that you don't need to have everything figured out to change your life. You just need 5 seconds of courage again and again and again. Because the truth is, you're never going to feel ready to change. You're never going to wake up one day magically motivated. You have to create your own momentum 5 seconds at a time. So the next time you hesitate, remember Mel's story. Remember the rocket launch. And remember 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Your entire life can change one decision at a time. In chapter 3 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins prepares us for what really happens when we start using the rule. She wants us to know that this isn't some magic formula or motivational trick. It's a practical tool that will completely change the way you think, act, and live. But she's also honest. Change doesn't come easy. The first thing you can expect when you start using the 5-second rule is resistance from your own mind. She explains that the moment you decide to count 5 in 4, 3, 2, 1 and take action, you'll feel a wave of discomfort. That's your brain trying to protect you from anything unfamiliar or difficult. It's your mind saying, don't do this, stay safe, stay comfortable. But here's the truth. Mel reveals that feeling is proof that you're growing. Every time you push past hesitation and take action anyway, you weaken fear's control over you and strengthen your courage muscle. Mel says that as you start using the rule, you'll notice something powerful. Your self-confidence begins to rise, not because you suddenly believe in yourself, but because you act in ways that prove you can trust yourself. Every time you follow through, even on small things, getting up with the alarm, going to the gym, making a phone call you've been avoiding, you send yourself a message. I can count on me. That's how real confidence is built, through action, not words. She shares that one of the biggest surprises people experience when they start using the 5-second rule is how quickly momentum builds. You start to see results not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop waiting for motivation and start creating it. You start living intentionally instead of reacting to life. You stop letting fear make decisions for you. Mel reminds us that success doesn't come from massive leaps. It comes from small, courageous moments repeated over and over again. Another thing you can expect is a shift in how you handle fear and anxiety. The 5-second rule doesn't eliminate fear, it helps you act in spite of it. You learn that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when you're scared. Mel shares that fear loses its power the moment you take action. When you count down and do the thing anyway, whether that's speaking up in a meeting, saying no to something unhealthy, or taking the first step toward a goal, fear fades and strength takes its place. She also points out that your relationships may begin to change too. When you start showing up with more confidence and less hesitation, people notice. You become more assertive, more present, and more authentic. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop holding back your opinions or hiding your dreams. The rule helps you align your actions with your values, and that alignment creates peace and power. Mel wants readers to know that the 5-second rule is simple, but not always easy. You'll still have days when you don't feel like it. You'll still battle doubt and fear. But now you'll have a weapon, a small, powerful tool that reminds you that you are in control. You don't have to wait to feel ready. You just have to count backward and move. The more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, taking action starts to feel like your new normal. By the end of the chapter, Mel paints a vivid picture of what life can look like once you make the rule a habit. You'll start achieving goals you once thought were out of reach. You'll feel more focused, confident, and fulfilled. You'll realize that you don't need to change who you are. You just need to wake up the greatness that's already inside you. She leaves us with one powerful truth. You are always one decision away from a completely different life. And with the 5-second rule, that decision takes only 5 seconds. So the next time fear whispers, "Not now," you whisper back, "5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go." And just like that, your life begins to move forward. In Chapter 4 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins pulls back the curtain on why this incredibly simple rule works so powerfully. She explains that the secret isn't magic, it's science. The 5-second rule works because it helps you break old habits, interrupt destructive thought patterns, and reprogram your brain for action instead of hesitation. It's a tool that gives you control over something that most people never master, your mind. Mel begins by reminding us that our brains are wired for survival, not success. Whenever we face uncertainty, challenge, or discomfort, our brain's natural instinct is to protect us, and it does that by talking us out of taking action. We feel fear, doubt, or laziness, and instead of pushing through, we hesitate. That hesitation triggers our brain's internal alarm system, convincing us to stay in our comfort zone. It tells us, don't do it. You might fail. It's safer to wait. And so we don't move. This is where the 5-second rule comes in. When you count backward, 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, you disrupt that autopilot pattern of hesitation. You interrupt your brain's default behavior and activate a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making, focus, and goal-directed action. The countdown gives you a mental shift from emotion to intention, from thinking to doing. You move from being controlled by fear to taking conscious control. Mel explains that the 5-second countdown works just like a mental push button. It forces your mind to snap out of autopilot and pay attention. The moment you start counting backward, you're taking back power from the part of your brain that keeps you stuck. It's like flipping a switch. You go from worrying to moving, from overthinking to acting. She also highlights that the rule works because of a concept called metacognition, the ability to think about your own thoughts. Most of us don't realize that we can control our mental patterns. We assume our thoughts are in charge, but the truth is we are. The 5-second rule gives you a tool to interrupt unhelpful thoughts before they spiral and replace them with action. You literally train your brain to focus on what you want instead of what you fear. Mel connects this science to real life. She says that every time you use the rule, you're building new neural pathways, teaching your brain that action is the new normal. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Over time, hesitation loses its power and confidence becomes your automatic response. That's why people who use the rule start seeing massive shifts, not because their lives suddenly get easier, but because they start responding differently. She also touches on something deeply empowering. You don't need to feel motivated to act. Motivation is unreliable. It's an emotion that comes and goes. If you wait until you feel like doing something, you'll spend your life waiting. The 5-second rule works because it doesn't rely on feelings, it relies on choice. You move first and the motivation follows. Mel explains that the rule also reduces anxiety and fear. When you count backward and move, you redirect your mind from endless worry into physical motion. You can't be both anxious and actively moving forward. Your brain can only focus on one task. The rule gives you an instant pattern break, helping you step out of the spiral of overthinking and into the present moment. By the end of the chapter, Mel makes one thing clear. The 5-second rule works because it gives you control over the single greatest force that shapes your life, your decisions. Every habit, every goal, every dream depends on your ability to decide and act. And every time you count down and take action, you are literally rewiring your brain for success. She sums it up perfectly. You can't control how you feel, but you can always choose how you act. The 5-second rule gives you the power to make that choice every time in every situation. So when fear whispers that you can't, when self-doubt creeps in, or when laziness tempts you to delay, remember this truth. You're only 5 seconds away from courage. You're only 5 seconds away from progress. You're only 5 seconds away from a better life. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. That's how change begins. In Chapter 5 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins dives into one of the most powerful truths about personal growth, that courage isn't something you're born with, it's something you practice. She calls it everyday courage, the small, quiet, consistent acts of bravery that move your life forward, one decision at a time. You don't need to climb a mountain or face a crisis to be courageous. True courage happens in the moments when no one is watching, when you choose to act, even when you're afraid. Mel explains that most of us misunderstand courage. We think it's a grand heroic act, something reserved for special people in extraordinary circumstances. But in reality, courage looks a lot more ordinary. It's getting out of bed when you want to hide under the covers. It's speaking up in a meeting when your voice shakes. It's saying no to something that drains you, even when it disappoints others. Courage is simply action in the face of fear. The 5-second rule is the bridge between fear and courage. Every time you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take action, you're proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort. That tiny moment of decision, that gap between hesitation and movement, is where courage is born. Courage doesn't erase fear, it coexists with it. The magic is that you act despite the fear. Mel shares how fear is a natural part of being human. It's your brain's way of trying to protect you from risk or failure. But in modern life, that instinct often works against you. You're not running from lions. You're avoiding phone calls, interviews, or honest conversations. The fear feels the same, but the danger isn't real. The 5-second rule helps you override that ancient wiring. You train yourself to act before fear has a chance to grow louder. She tells the story of people who use the rule to practice everyday courage: the woman who left a toxic job, the man who finally spoke to the person he admired, the student who stopped procrastinating and asked for help. In every story, the theme is the same: courage. It wasn't about confidence, it was about action. The confidence came later. Mel emphasizes that everyday courage builds emotional strength like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Each time you push yourself to act, even in small ways, you build self-trust. You start to believe in your ability to handle hard things. You stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect feeling because you realize that you create those moments through movement. She also points out that hesitation kills courage. The longer you wait, the more your brain floods you with doubt and fear. That's why counting down from 5 is so effective. It interrupts hesitation before it can take root. When you move in that short window, you give yourself a burst of control and clarity. You silence the noise of what if and replace it with let's go. Courage doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees growth. Every act of courage, big or small, expands your world. It gives you new experiences, new opportunities, and new strength. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. That's what Mel calls everyday courage. Not a single brave act, but a way of living where fear no longer decides for you. By the end of the chapter, Mel reminds us that courage is not about being fearless. It's about being willing. You don't have to feel brave to act brave. You just have to decide. You just have to count down and go. The rule doesn't make the fear disappear. It makes you stronger than the fear. So the next time you face something uncomfortable, making that call, saying I love you, applying for that job, or finally starting what you've been putting off, remember, courage doesn't wait for confidence. Courage creates confidence. All it takes is 5 seconds. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. That's the sound of your courage waking up. In Chapter 6 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins delivers a message that hits straight to the heart. What are you waiting for? She challenges us to look at all the dreams, goals, and changes we've been putting off and to ask ourselves why. Most of us are waiting for something, the right time, the right feeling, the perfect plan, or maybe just permission to start. But Mel makes it clear there is no perfect time. There is only now. She explains that our tendency to wait is rooted in fear and hesitation. We tell ourselves we're not ready, that we need more clarity, more confidence, or more information. But deep down, we already know what we want. We just don't act on it. We've trained ourselves to overthink instead of move. The truth, Mel says, is that you'll never feel ready. Action comes first. Confidence and clarity come later. Waiting for the right moment is just another form of procrastination, dressed up as preparation. This is where the 5-second rule comes in as the ultimate wake-up call. When you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and move, you stop waiting and start doing. You silence the excuses, the fears, and the endless what-ifs that hold you back. You take control of your life instead of letting hesitation control you. Every time you use the rule, you prove to yourself that you don't need permission or perfect conditions. You only need the courage to start. Mel reminds us that time doesn't slow down for anyone. The longer we wait, the more our dreams fade into someday. We think we have unlimited time to make changes, to start that business, to tell someone how we feel, to get healthy, to write that book, but someday often turns into never. She urges us to realize that our lives are happening right now, and every moment we waste waiting is a moment we can never get back. She also exposes the myth of motivation. Most people believe that one day they'll suddenly feel motivated enough to take action. But Mel explains that motivation is unreliable. It's not a spark that appears from nowhere. It's a result of action. You don't wait to feel motivated. You move first, and the motivation follows. The 5-second rule gives you a simple way to do just that. Count down and act before your brain talks you out of it. Throughout the chapter, Mel shares stories of people who stopped waiting and started living, the woman who left a relationship that was draining her, the man who finally pursued his lifelong dream, the parent who rebuilt their health and confidence. None of them waited for the right time. They simply made the decision to act. And that one moment, that single countdown, changed everything. Mel also emphasizes that action doesn't mean perfection. It's not about having every step figured out. It's about starting. Progress is messy, uncomfortable, and imperfect, but it's progress. You can always adjust, learn, and improve along the way, but none of that happens until you take the first step. Waiting for certainty only guarantees regret. By the end of the chapter, Mel's message is crystal clear. You already have everything you need to begin. The courage, the strength, the ideas, they're already inside you. The only thing missing is action. The moment you stop waiting and start moving, your life begins to change. So the next time you catch yourself hesitating, ask yourself, what am I waiting for? Because if you keep waiting, you'll be waiting forever. You don't need a sign. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing. All you need is 5 seconds of courage. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Stop waiting. Start living. In Chapter 7 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins reveals one of the most liberating yet uncomfortable truths about human behavior. You will never feel like it. We all wait for motivation, for that magical moment when we finally feel ready to change, to start, or to push forward. But Mel says the harsh truth is this: that moment rarely comes. Waiting to feel like it is the biggest trap that keeps people stuck. She explains that our brains are wired to protect us from anything uncomfortable or uncertain. So whenever we face a difficult choice to exercise, to speak up, to take a risk, our brain immediately starts working to keep us safe by convincing us not to act. It whispers excuses. You're tired. Do it later. You're not ready. And because we believe those thoughts, we stay still. We confuse comfort with safety, but they're not the same thing. Mel says you will never feel like doing the things that are hard, uncertain, or scary, but you must do them anyway if you want to change your life. This is why the 5-second rule is so powerful. It helps you override that automatic resistance by giving you a way to act before your brain can stop you. When you count backward, 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, you interrupt your old habits of hesitation and move into action. You shift from being controlled by your emotions to being led by your goals. Mel compares this to launching a rocket. The countdown focuses your attention and forces commitment. Once you start counting, there's no turning back. You move. It's that same principle in your life. You can't wait to feel motivated because motivation isn't coming. Instead, you have to start, and then the motivation appears. Action, not emotion, creates momentum. She uses a powerful example. Think about waking up in the morning. Nobody feels like getting out of bed when the alarm goes off. But if you hit snooze, you reinforce procrastination. If instead you count 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, and move, you teach your brain that you are in control. You start your day with a small act of courage, and that sets the tone for everything that follows. Mel also reminds us that feeling like it is a myth, because our emotions are temporary and unreliable. If you only acted when you felt good, you'd never build discipline, success, or self-respect. Discipline doesn't require feeling ready, it requires action. When you don't feel like it, that's where real growth begins, when you do what's right, not what's easy. She calls this parenting yourself. Just as a good parent doesn't let a child skip school because they don't feel like going, you must learn to guide yourself the same way. You have to push through resistance, make yourself move, and take responsibility for your actions. The more you do this, the stronger your self-control becomes. By the end of the chapter, Mel makes it clear. Your feelings are not the problem, your inaction is. You don't need to wait for inspiration or confidence. You just need to decide. You just need 5 seconds of courage to take the first step, to send that email, to speak up, to start the workout, to change your life. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll do it later," or "I just don't feel like it," remember you're right, you probably never will. But that doesn't matter, because you don't need to feel ready. You just need to act. Count it down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Do it before you talk yourself out of it. You may never feel like it, but when you move anyway, you take back your power. In Chapter 8 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins gets practical. She's already shown us why the rule works. Now she shows us how to actually use it in our daily lives. This chapter is about turning the 5-second rule from an idea into a habit, one that can transform every part of your life. Mel starts by reminding us that the rule is simple, deceptively simple. All you have to do is count backward from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. That's it. But don't mistake simple for easy. The real power comes in applying it every time you feel hesitation pulling you back. Whether it's getting out of bed, starting a task, speaking up, or stopping a bad habit, the rule is your trigger to act. She explains that hesitation is a decision, a choice to stay stuck. The moment you hesitate, your brain starts working against you. It activates fear, self-doubt, and all the reasons why you shouldn't do something. But when you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take immediate action, you interrupt that pattern and rewire your brain to focus on movement instead of excuses. Mel encourages readers to start small. Use the rule in simple, everyday moments like getting up without hitting snooze, making that phone call you've been avoiding, or choosing a healthy meal instead of junk food. Each small action is a vote for the person you want to become. These tiny moments build momentum, and over time, they reshape your mindset. She also points out that the rule is most effective when you pair it with a specific goal or intention. For example, if your goal is to get healthier, use the rule whenever you feel resistance. 5 to 4 to 3 to 1. Put on your shoes, go for a walk. If your goal is to stop procrastinating, 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, open the laptop, start typing. You don't have to finish the whole thing. You just have to start. Mel stresses that the first 5 seconds are everything. That's the window where you decide whether you'll move forward or hold yourself back. The rule gives you a way to seize that moment before your brain fills it with fear. Once you start moving, your motivation catches up. Action, not thought, changes how you feel. She also talks about the importance of using the rule for emotional control. Whenever you feel anxiety, anger, or stress rising, you can count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to interrupt those emotions and ground yourself in the present. The countdown breaks the emotional pattern, giving you just enough space to choose a better response. You can use it to stop snapping at people, to calm down before reacting, or to shift your focus from worry to gratitude. Mel reminds us that using the rule consistently builds self-trust. Every time you use it, you prove to yourself that you are capable of taking control, that you are not a victim of fear, procrastination, or old habits. That growing sense of control is what creates confidence. Confidence isn't a feeling. It's the result of taking action again and again, even when you don't feel like it. By the end of the chapter, Mel offers a challenge. For the next 5 days, use the rule. Every single time you catch yourself hesitating, it could be a small hesitation or a big one, it doesn't matter. Just count down and move. You'll start to notice something amazing. Your energy will rise, your confidence will grow, and you'll begin to see yourself as someone who does instead of someone who waits. Because that's the power of the 5-second rule. It trains you to become a doer, not a dreamer. It's not about being fearless. It's about being brave, enough to move 5 seconds at a time. So the next time you feel yourself freezing, doubting, or delaying, remember, you don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You just need 5 seconds of courage. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. That's how you start changing your life. One decision, one action, one moment at a time. In Chapter 9 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins takes the power of the rule and applies it to one of the most important areas of our lives, our health. She reminds us that improving our health isn't about knowing what to do, it's about actually doing it. Most of us already know we should eat better, exercise more, sleep enough, and manage stress. The problem isn't knowledge, it's action. We get stuck in a cycle of procrastination, excuses, and hesitation. The 5-second rule breaks that cycle and helps you take control of your body, your habits, and your life. Mel starts by saying something powerful. You are one decision away from a healthier life. But the truth is, those decisions are rarely convenient. No one wakes up bursting with motivation to go for a run or choose a salad over pizza. Your brain always wants comfort, and comfort feels easier in the moment. But that momentary comfort costs you long-term energy, confidence, and health. The 5-second rule gives you a way to push past those urges. When you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take action, you get up, you move, you make the better choice, you interrupt the pattern of excuses and rewire your brain toward action. Mel explains that the hardest part of any healthy habit is simply starting. Getting up to go to the gym, choosing to prep a meal, or putting on your workout clothes, those are the moments where resistance hits the hardest. Your mind floods with reasons not to do it. I'm tired. It's too late. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. The 5-second rule helps you override that inner dialogue and act before your excuses win. The more you use it, the easier it gets. Soon taking action becomes your new normal. She shares stories of real people who transformed their health using the rule, individuals who lost weight, overcame stress eating, broke bad habits, and built consistency. They didn't find a magic solution or a secret diet. They just used the 5-second rule to close the gap between intention and action. Every time they wanted to skip a workout or reach for junk food, they counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and made the right choice. Over time, those small moments of discipline created massive results. Mel also highlights that health isn't just about physical fitness, it's about emotional and mental. well-being too. The rule can help you manage anxiety, reduce stress, and calm your mind. When you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or trapped in negative thoughts, counting 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1 helps you shift your focus back to the present. You can use it to stop overthinking, control emotional eating, or simply take a deep breath before reacting. It's a powerful tool for self-control and self-compassion. She reminds us that health is built through consistency, not perfection. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to make one better choice at a time. Every time you push yourself to act, even in the smallest way, you're building discipline, self-trust, and confidence. The key is to stop waiting until you feel like it, because that feeling will never come. Action comes first, motivation follows. By the end of the chapter, Mel drives home one essential truth. Your body and your mind are connected. When you take care of your body, your mind gets stronger. When you push your body, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. Each 5-second decision, to move, to eat better, to rest, to breathe, becomes an act of self-respect. So the next time you feel like skipping your workout, hitting snooze, or reaching for something unhealthy, remember, you're 5 seconds away from a better choice. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Get up, move, take care of yourself. Because every small act of courage adds up, and your health is the foundation for everything else in your life. In Chapter 10 of the 5-Second Rule, Mel Robbins tackles one of the biggest struggles of modern life: productivity. She reminds us that the key to getting more done isn't about having more time, it's about taking control of the moments when you don't feel like it. Productivity isn't just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. And that begins with mastering your ability to start. Mel explains that procrastination has nothing to do with laziness. It's actually a way our brains cope with stress, fear, or discomfort. When we avoid a task, it's usually because it feels hard, boring, or overwhelming. But the more we avoid it, the more stress we create. The 5-second rule gives you a simple, effective way to break that cycle. The moment you catch yourself hesitating or delaying, you count 5 to 4, 3, 2, 1, and move open the laptop. Make the call, start typing, clean the space. That one small act flips your brain from avoidance to action. She emphasizes that starting is everything. The hardest part of any task is not doing it, it's starting it. Once you start, momentum takes over. Your focus sharpens and the resistance fades. Mel calls this the starting ritual. By counting down and acting, immediately you create a mental cue that tells your brain it's time to work. The more you do it, the more automatic it becomes until productivity feels natural, not forced. Mel also addresses one of the biggest productivity killers: distraction. We live in a world of endless notifications, messages, and digital noise that constantly hijack our attention. But the truth is, you're in control of your focus. Every time you feel the urge to check your phone or scroll through social media, use the rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put the phone down, get back to work. Each time you do, you're strengthening your ability to direct your attention instead of letting it drift. She encourages readers to use the rule to eat the frog, a concept from Brian Tracy. That means doing the hardest or most important task first. When you wake up, your brain is fresh, your willpower is strong, and your energy is high. That's the perfect time to tackle your biggest challenge. Don't think, don't delay. Just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and start. The reward is instant, not just in results, but in the confidence you feel for keeping your promise to yourself. Mel also shares how the 5-second rule can help overcome perfectionism, another hidden form of procrastination. Many people delay taking action because they want everything to be perfect. But perfectionism kills progress. Using the rule helps you push through that trap and take imperfect action. Progress, not perfection, is what creates success. By using the rule consistently, you begin to retrain your brain to associate productivity with movement, not motivation. You stop waiting to feel ready and start acting on intention. Mel calls this activation energy, the mental push that gets you going. The countdown provides that push every time. It's like a rocket launch. The moment you start counting, your brain focuses. Your doubts fade and you move forward. By the end of the chapter, Mel makes it clear that productivity isn't about working harder, it's about mastering yourself. It's about doing what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it. Every time you use the rule, you strengthen your discipline, focus, and confidence. So the next time you're tempted to delay, remember hesitation only makes things harder. You don't need to feel ready to be productive. You just need to move. Count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Start now. Send the email. Begin the project. Take the first step. Because action beats waiting every single time. And the secret to productivity isn't time management, it's self-management. In Chapter 11 of the 5-Second Rule, Mel Robbins takes on one of the most common struggles we all face, procrastination. She begins by making something very clear. Procrastination isn't about being lazy or unmotivated. It's actually a form of stress relief. When we delay doing something, it's usually because the task makes us feel anxious, uncomfortable, or overwhelmed. In that moment, our brains look for an escape, and we reach for distractions like scrolling, social media, checking emails, or doing anything that gives us short-term comfort. But what happens next? Guilt sets in, stress increases, and the cycle repeats. Mel explains that to break this cycle, you have to interrupt it in the moment it begins. That's where the 5-second rule comes in. The moment you catch yourself about to procrastinate, whether it's putting off a project, avoiding a conversation, or skipping the gym, you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and act immediately. That countdown interrupts your habit. Loop shifts your focus away from the emotion and puts your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, back in control. In simple terms, it stops the "I'll do it later" spiral and gets you moving now. She introduces the concept of the moment of choice. Every time you feel yourself hesitating, you are standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to more excuses, guilt, and wasted time. The other leads to action, progress, and self-respect. When you use the 5-second rule, you take the second path. You train your brain to act on intention instead of emotion. And with practice, you start building a reputation with yourself, the kind of person who does what they say they'll do. Mel shares that procrastination doesn't go away because your workload gets easier, it disappears when your mindset changes. The goal isn't to feel motivated before acting. It's to act regardless of how you feel. Once you understand this, you realize that waiting for the right mood or the perfect moment is just a trap. The truth is, action comes first and motivation follows. When you act, your brain releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical that reinforces your behavior. In other words, you don't need motivation to start. You need to start to create motivation. She also emphasizes the importance of self-compassion. We often beat ourselves up for procrastinating, which only makes us feel worse and less likely to change. Instead, Mel encourages us to recognize that procrastination is simply a response to stress, and the way to overcome it is by managing that stress through action. Each time you use the 5-second rule, you're not just stopping procrastination, you're training your mind to stay calm, focused, and accountable. Mel gives practical examples, like students using the rule to start studying instead of scrolling, professionals using it to send that difficult email, or writers using it to finally begin a project they've been avoiding. Each success builds confidence. Each moment of action strengthens the belief that you are in control of your habits, not the other way around. By the end of the chapter, Mel delivers a simple but powerful message. Procrastination steals your potential. Every time you delay, you trade progress for comfort. But the 5-second rule gives you the power to reclaim your time, energy, and focus one decision at a time. The next time you catch yourself hesitating, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and start. Don't overthink it. Don't negotiate with your feelings. Just move. Because the truth is, you don't need more time. You need more courage to use the time you already have. And with the 5-second rule, that courage is always 5 seconds away. In Chapter 12 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins dives deep into one of the most common and paralyzing habits of all, worrying. She starts by reminding us that worry feels productive, but it's not. It tricks us into believing we're preparing for the worst, when in reality, we're just replaying fears in our mind and draining our energy. Worry doesn't solve problems, action does. The more we worry, the more anxious and stuck we feel, creating a cycle that feeds itself. But the good news, just like procrastination or hesitation, worry is also a habit, and that means it can be changed. Mel explains that worry begins in the mind, but quickly takes over the body. When you start worrying, your brain triggers the same stress response as if something dangerous were happening. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, and your thoughts spiral. You're no longer in control, your anxiety is. The secret, Mel says, is to interrupt that pattern before it takes over. And that's where the 5-second rule becomes your weapon. The moment you catch yourself starting to worry, whether it's about money, work, your future, or what others think, you simply count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and redirect your focus. You can't control what thoughts pop into your head, but you can control how long you let them stay there. By counting backward, you interrupt the worry loop and activate your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. This shift allows you to replace fear with focus and anxiety with action. Mel shares that worrying is your brain's way of trying to prepare for something uncertain. It's not evil, it's protective. But most of what we worry about never actually happens. In fact, studies show that over 85% of the things people worry about have positive or neutral outcomes. So when you catch yourself spiraling into what if thinking, remember you're reacting to imagination, not reality. The 5-second rule helps you snap out of that imaginary future and return to the present moment where you actually have power. One of Mel's most powerful ideas in this chapter is that you can't worry and be grateful at the same time. Gratitude shifts your focus from fear to abundance. So after using the 5-second rule to stop your worry, immediately direct your thoughts to something positive. Think, I'm grateful for what I have right now. That small act trains your brain to replace fear with peace. And over time, you start to rewire how your mind responds to stress. Mel also shares that you can transform nervous energy into excitement using the same rule. The next time you feel anxious, before a big meeting, a test, or a conversation, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and say, I'm excited. Why? Because physiologically, anxiety and excitement feel almost identical. It's your interpretation that changes everything. By labeling the feeling differently, you trick your brain into thinking you're ready instead of scared. She reminds us that we will never eliminate worry completely. It's part of being human, but we can stop letting it control us. When you use the 5-second rule to break free from worry, you reclaim your focus, your confidence, and your peace of mind. You start living from intention, not fear. And most importantly, you realize that life becomes so much lighter when you stop letting imaginary problems steal your real joy. In the end, Mel's message is clear. Worry adds nothing but weight. Every time you let it win, you lose a piece of your power. But the moment you count down and take control, you remind yourself that you are stronger than your thoughts. So the next time you catch your mind racing, stop, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe deeply and move forward. Because your energy is too precious to waste on what might happen. It belongs to what will happen when you take action, stay present, and trust yourself. In Chapter 13 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins addresses one of the biggest challenges of modern life, anxiety. She begins by saying that anxiety is not just about fear of the future, it's about the loss of control in the present. When your thoughts spiral and your heart races, your body reacts as if danger is near, even when you are perfectly safe. Anxiety feeds on overthinking, and the more you let those thoughts run wild, the louder they get. But Mel reminds us, anxiety might be powerful, but it's not permanent. You have the power to interrupt it, and it only takes 5 seconds. Mel shares how the 5-second rule helped her personally overcome years of debilitating anxiety. She explains that anxiety is simply a habit your brain has learned, a habit of worrying, replaying fears, and expecting the worst. The good news? Any habit can be broken. The key is to recognize anxiety as a pattern, not a personality trait. The moment you feel the signs, your chest tightening, your mind racing, your breathing shallow, you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take control. That simple act pulls you out of the emotional brain and back into rational thinking. You're no longer trapped inside the storm of what-ifs. You're back in the driver's seat. One of Mel's most practical tools for ending anxiety is called anchoring. When you count down and then anchor yourself to something specific in your environment, the sound of your breathing, the texture of the chair, or the feeling of your feet on the ground, you bring your focus back to the present. Anxiety lives in the future, but peace lives in the now. By grounding yourself, you remind your body that you are safe. Over time, your brain learns to replace panic with calm and fear with focus. Mel also teaches a powerful reframe, turning anxiety into excitement. When your body starts to panic, your heart races, your palms sweat. It's the same physical reaction you have when you're excited. The difference lies only in how you label it. So the next time you feel anxiety creeping in, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and say, I'm excited. That small mental shift changes your body's chemistry and redirects your energy toward anticipation. Instead of fear, you're not fighting your body, you're working with it. She also emphasizes that ending anxiety doesn't mean eliminating it forever. It means changing your relationship with it. Instead of letting anxiety control you, you learn to manage it moment by moment. Every time you interrupt an anxious thought, you weaken its power. Each time you ground yourself in the present, you retrain your brain to stay calm under pressure. And with practice, what once felt like panic starts to feel like confidence. Mel shares stories of people who used the 5-second rule to manage anxiety in real life, from students dealing with exam stress to professionals facing high-stakes presentations to parents overwhelmed with daily responsibilities. In each case, the principle is the same: action breaks fear. Anxiety thrives in hesitation. But the second you act, whether it's standing up, taking a deep breath, or saying what needs to be said, the spiral loses strength. In the end, Mel's message is simple but life-changing. You are not your anxiety. It's just a habit, and habits can be changed. You don't need to wait for peace, you can create it. All it takes is 5 seconds of courage repeated again and again until your mind learns that you are safe, capable, and in control. So the next time your heart starts to race and your mind fills with doubt, stop and count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe. Anchor yourself in this moment. You are not broken, you're just human. And with one simple tool, you can remind yourself that calm, clarity, and control are always within reach, just 5 seconds away. In Chapter 14 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins takes on one of the most paralyzing emotions we face: fear. She begins by reminding us that fear is not the enemy. Fear is a natural response, an instinct designed to protect us. But in today's world, fear often shows up when we're not in danger, when we're chasing dreams, taking risks, or stepping outside our comfort zone. It disguises itself as hesitation, self-doubt, or endless what-ifs. The truth is, fear will never go away. But Mel says something powerful. You don't have to get rid of fear. You just have to learn to move with it. She explains that fear and excitement feel exactly the same in your body. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your stomach flutters. The only difference is what you tell yourself about that feeling. When you label it as fear, your brain sees danger. When you label it as excitement, your brain sees opportunity. So the next time you're about to do something that scares you, give a presentation, make a big decision, or speak your truth, and you feel that surge of adrenaline, stop and count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then tell yourself, I'm excited. That simple shift rewires your brain and turns fear into fuel. Mel shares that fear lives in the moments of hesitation, in that small pause between thinking and doing. Every time you hesitate, fear grows stronger. Your mind starts creating stories, imagining worst-case scenarios and convincing you to back away. That's why the 5-second rule is so powerful. It cuts off fear before it can take root. The instant you count down and take action, you bypass the emotional part of your brain and activate your rational mind. You don't give fear the time it needs to talk you out of your potential. She also reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite it. Every brave person you admire feels fear too. They just don't let it decide their future. Mel encourages us to see fear as a compass. It points you toward the things that matter. If something scares you, it's usually a sign that you're growing, pushing boundaries, or stepping into something meaningful. Instead of running from fear, run toward it, because on the other side of fear is freedom. Mel tells stories of ordinary people using the 5-second rule to conquer fear. Someone afraid of flying who used it to board a plane, an entrepreneur terrified of failure who used it to pitch their idea, and countless others who learned that bravery is built one small act at a time. Each time they counted down and acted, fear lost its grip. Over time, courage became their new habit. She closes the chapter with a simple truth fear will always whisper. What if it goes wrong? But with the 5-second rule, you can answer back, what if it goes right? That one question changes everything. It opens your mind to possibility instead of paralysis. So the next time fear tries to hold you back, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move, speak, start, step forward. You don't need to feel brave to act brave. You just need 5 seconds of courage. Because courage isn't something you're born with. It's something you create, moment by moment, choice by choice. And every time you use the rule, you're not just beating fear. You're becoming the kind of person who no longer lets it win. In Chapter 15 of the 5-second rule, Mel Robbins talks about one of the most sought-after traits in life, confidence. But she makes one thing very clear right away. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Many people think confident people just naturally have it all together, that they wake up fearless and ready to conquer the world. But Mel explains that confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill. And like any skill, it's built through action, not thought. Mel shares that true confidence is the quiet belief that you can count on yourself, that when you say you'll do something, you'll follow through. It's about self-trust. Every time you push through fear, hesitation, or self-doubt, you prove to yourself that you can handle it. And each of those small wins becomes another brick in the foundation of your confidence. That's why the 5-second rule is such a powerful tool. It helps you take action before insecurity or overthinking have the chance to talk you out of it. Every time you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and move, you're building proof that you are capable. Mel explains that a lack of confidence doesn't come from a lack of ability. It comes from a habit of hesitation and self-criticism. We tell ourselves we're not ready, not smart enough, not talented enough, and those thoughts slowly shape how we see ourselves. The only way to change that story is to take action before those thoughts take over. Confidence isn't built by waiting until you feel ready. It's built by acting before you do. The 5-second rule helps you bridge that gap between doubt and decision. She also breaks down the myth that confidence means never feeling afraid. In reality, confident people feel fear all the time, they just don't let it stop them. The difference is that they take action even when they're uncomfortable. Mel calls this the confidence loop: act, learn, grow. Every time you act, you learn something new. Every time you learn, you grow. And with growth comes more confidence. It's a self-reinforcing cycle, and it starts with one brave moment. Mel shares her own experience of struggling with self-doubt, from being stuck in fear and procrastination to using the 5-second rule to rebuild her belief in herself. She reminds us that no one is coming to hand us confidence, we have to build it ourselves. And it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you speak up, take a chance, or try something new, you're proving to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. She encourages readers to start small. Make that phone call. Speak up in that meeting. Go to the gym even when you don't feel like it. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and do the thing you've been avoiding. Those tiny moments of courage are what grow into lasting confidence. The more you act, the less power fear and self-doubt have over you. Mel ends the chapter with a reminder that real confidence is not about being fearless or perfect. It's about trusting yourself enough to act no matter how you feel. You don't need to wait for inspiration, approval, or the right moment. You already have what it takes. Confidence is built every time you choose action over hesitation. So the next time you doubt, Yourself remember, confidence isn't something you get, it's something you do. Countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take the leap and let your actions prove to you who you truly are capable, brave and unstoppable. In Chapter 16 of the 5-Second Rule, Mel Robbins dives into one of the biggest myths that holds people back, the idea that passion is something you have to find. She challenges this belief head-on, saying that passion isn't hidden, somewhere waiting for you to discover it. It's something you create through action, curiosity, and courage. So many of us sit around, waiting for the perfect idea, the perfect sign, or the perfect timing, but Mel reminds us that passion doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. She explains that passion grows from engagement, from trying, exploring, failing, and learning. You don't wake up one day with absolute clarity about your life's purpose. You build it by taking small steps toward the things that make you feel alive. The 5-second rule becomes the spark that gets you started. When you feel that nudge, that little whisper that says, maybe I should try this, or what if I could do that? That's your cue. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't wait for confidence or certainty. Just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take one small action toward it. Mel shares that most people think passion is about grand gestures, quitting your job, starting a company, or moving across the world. But passion often starts much smaller. It might begin as curiosity, a book you can't stop reading, a hobby that brings you peace, or a cause that stirs your heart. When you lean into that curiosity, even just a little, you give your life momentum. And with momentum comes clarity. The more you do, the more you discover what lights you up. She points out that waiting to feel ready is the biggest trap. You'll never feel fully ready to chase something meaningful because passion lives outside your comfort zone. Fear and doubt will always show up, that's normal. But the 5-second rule helps you move through that resistance. Each time you count down and act, you're building a bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Mel also highlights that pursuing passion isn't just about finding joy, it's about creating fulfillment. Passion fuels perseverance. It gives meaning to the hard work and courage to face challenges. When you're passionate about something, even the obstacles become part of the adventure. But you'll never experience that if you're waiting for the perfect path to appear. You have to take the first step to see where it leads. She shares stories of people who used the 5-second rule to reconnect with their passions. A teacher who started painting again after years, an engineer who finally launched his dream business, a mother who began writing at night after her kids went to bed. None of them started with a master plan, they just started moving. That's the secret. You build passion the same way you build confidence, by taking action before you feel ready. Mel closes the chapter with one of her most empowering messages. Passion is energy. It's the fuel of purpose. And the more you honor it, the more alive you become. If you want a passionate life, you don't wait for it, you create it. So the next time you feel that spark, that little tug of curiosity or excitement, don't ignore it. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take the leap, no matter how small. Because your passion isn't waiting to be found someday, it's waiting for you to start today. And all it takes to begin is 5 seconds of courage. In Chapter 17 of the 5-Second Rule, Mel Robbins explores one of the most important areas of life: relationships. Whether it's with your partner, family, friends, or co-workers, the quality of your relationships defines the quality of your life. But Mel begins with a truth many of us forget. Great relationships don't just happen. They're built moment by moment, choice by choice. And just like confidence or courage, strong relationships are created through action. She explains that one of the biggest barriers to connection is hesitation. We hesitate to reach out, to apologize, to express gratitude, to say how we really feel. We assume the other person already knows we care. Or we let pride and fear stop us from taking that small but meaningful step. That's where the 5-second rule comes in. The moment you feel the urge to connect, to send that text, make that call, or simply say, I love you, or I appreciate you. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and do it. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect time. That one action can change everything. Mel emphasizes that relationships thrive not on grand gestures, but on small, consistent acts of love and kindness. A smile, a compliment, listening instead of reacting. Those moments build trust and deepen bonds. But when we get busy, distracted, or stuck in our own heads, we forget to nurture the people who matter most. The 5-second rule helps you interrupt that autopilot mode and be intentional about showing up for others. She also discusses the role of vulnerability, how it's the foundation of real connection. Many people hold back from opening up because they fear rejection or judgment. But vulnerability is not weakness, it's courage in its purest form. When you count down and speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you give others permission to do the same. Whether it's admitting you're hurt, saying you're sorry, or sharing how much someone means to you, those 5 seconds of courage can transform a relationship. Mel also reminds us that enriching relationships isn't just about others, it starts with yourself. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you treat others. When you build self-respect, you naturally bring more empathy, patience, and understanding into your connections. Using the 5-second rule to stop negative self-talk helps you show up as a calmer, more loving version of yourself. And when you show up better, your relationships naturally flourish. She shares examples of people who used the rule to repair broken connections. Someone who called an estranged family member after years of silence, a manager who finally had an honest talk with their team, or a spouse who started expressing appreciation daily. Each story proves that it doesn't take much to make a difference. Just the decision to act on love instead of holding it back. Mel closes the chapter with a simple but powerful truth: relationships don't grow by chance, they grow by choice. And every moment you hesitate is a missed opportunity to love, to forgive, to connect. So when you feel that inner nudge to reach out, to say something kind, to bridge a gap, or to simply be present, don't wait. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and move. Because at the end of the day, it's not the big moments that define our relationships. It's the small ones we choose to act on. And with just 5 seconds of courage, you can turn hesitation into connection and make love the loudest voice in your life.